Well, Anne, I am so excited to be here with you on Leadtail TV. I don't get too often the chance to interview people that I know really, I would say really well, or pretty well at least. We've had a chance to hang out, and I've seen you speak, and I've seen you in your element. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's always, I'll welcome all the Brian Kramer time I get.
Oh, well, back at you. Back at you. Why don't we jump right in and we'll talk about one of the things that I know you're passionate about, which is working with companies that are pushing the future of tech. In fact, we were just talking about that before we jumped on, which is something you're really excited. I know you're excited about and what you do. But I'd love to know what's working. What is it about working with emerging tech startups that's exciting for you? It's something that you've done for a long time. You've written about. You've been there, done that, and you're still fighting the good fight and really creating more of it.
Well, thank you. Yes, I definitely have always been an underdog, being the only woman in the room as a developer, in many circles for a long time, doing something that no one really understood, SEO in the late 2000s, mid 2000s. People would hire me for SEO and then they'd be like, well, why can't you build the website? And I mean, I could, but like proving that my job was a real job was a thing. And so I got very used to fighting for what I am and what I do, because there are a faction of people that just don't understand that people like me exist. And that's okay. I'm here to educate them. But I love the underdogs, and I love working with companies that really skate on the edge of the edge of tech. So right now that's Web3 companies. I really like people that unseat large competitors who, are charging people too much money. Like, it's my own form of justice, I guess, is to help something grow out of nothing. That really, seeing companies form at South by Southwest and hackathons, like that to me is exciting goodness. And so my passion is really helping those post-angel, pre-Series A. That's my favorite sweet spot. Although I'll work with companies after Series A, but pre-Series A is kind of when we're proving the math of the business. And that's really my favorite thing to do, is to help figure out how are we going to scale, because it's a combination of art and science, which is online growth. And so that's really been my passion for a very long time. And working with startups, they need nothing but help in this arena.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's like a windy road. I'm sure that you've seen, I don't know if you call it every aspect, maybe you would, of everything out there that they've gone through, as they've gone through, the twists and turns and the roller coaster life of a startup, including the last couple of years, even, of what they've gone through. I'm sure, depending upon the industries. And what challenges come from working in that space that you've seen?
Well, when you work with renegades, they don't really like following rules. So there's a reason I earned myself the nickname the mother of startups, because I go into an organization and I will tell a founder what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And so a problem I see very frequently is a lack of discipline. A CEO hires a CMO, but they were doing it themselves first, and they don't really give them a chance to work on their own. Or, we start a campaign and we don't really want to let it run for the 2 weeks we've agreed to test the groups, because we had another idea. So, having that discipline to pull back and say, okay, I trust the people that I've brought in. I'm going to let the CMO be the CMO. I mean, there's a reason that the life cycle of a CMO in a startup in Silicon Valley is, I believe, 6 months to 9 months.
Wow, did it go down?
Yeah. Yeah. And so backing these CMOs, it takes emotional intelligence, technical intelligence. Like, you really have to be willing to roll up your sleeves and help them figure out how to not only do their jobs, but how to politically show that they're doing their jobs. And so data visualization is a really key part of what we do. Transparency and being able to show the math and show the data to, the board or whoever it is that needs to know, so that you can buy yourself some freedom.
Well, data visualization is such a neat topic, and I'm kind of jumping here, but can you talk a little bit about that in some capacity of what that looks like and how that helps more, and what you even where do you even begin, or what do you start with?
Sure. Data is different for everyone, because what you consider a lead or a sale can be different. If it's a services company, then obviously like a warm body that wants consulting, if it's that type of company, that's going to be considered a lead. So we want to measure against that. Maybe it's a newsletter sign up, maybe it's signing up for a webinar. That is all different. So we look at the data as it compares to the goals. So the goals of the company are to sell widgets, right? So how much time are people spending on our site that convert? Where are those people coming from? Looking at the data to say, okay, we know that people from Twitter spend the most time on our site out of social media, and out of those people, the highest percentage of conversion. Or maybe more people are coming from TikTok, but they're not converting. Well, do we really want to keep wasting our time doing these synchronized dancing videos? They're fun and cool, but some things we just chalk up to brand. Some things you don't want to shut it down because it doesn't convert. You have to do some things for brand and some things for morale of the company and to get yourself known. But we want to make sure that the activities are tangibly linked to things that generate revenue. And so we want to look at also the quality of traffic we're sending to the site. How long are they staying on the page? How many pages are they looking at? Are they human? Are they bot? I very frequently will be called in to, check on the authenticity of traffic for larger companies. I've busted a few people over the years for selling bad traffic. Yeah, so I'm like an auditor of sorts from a family of auditors, but I'm really looking at what is the quality, what is the amount of effort, energy, and resource, and what is the output. So understanding, which efforts make sense for the company to continue. And so knowing what helps us win means also really, truly recognizing what fails. And that's where a lot of organizations fall short, because they're not willing to. They're not willing to say something doesn't work because, maybe it worked once, or maybe an investor told us. Investors mean well, but unless they're rolling up their sleeves doing the work with you, oftentimes you kind of have to take what they say with a grain of salt, because there may be sharing experience from a different startup. That happens a lot too. Oh, well, the investor said this is where we're going to make money. Okay, well, we can test it. But having that ethos of maybe this will work, maybe it won't, is very hard for some organizations to do, because you're accepting from the outset you might fail. But that's
wow.
Ironically how you win.
Do you ever walk in to a young startup and look at them and go, oh my gosh, what are you doing here? Or this is going to be a winner. I can see it right here, but you've got X, Y, and Z to move around, or this is going to fail fast. You can tell immediately with the young startup, all the pieces of what needs to happen. And what are you looking for in a young startup to know what is going to work and what is not going to work?
There are signs. There are definitely signs. When I was in San Francisco this past decade, I used to walk in and I would look at the office, how many flavors of LaCroix are in that fridge? How much of investor money have we wasted on, hoverboards and gamer chairs, and how seriously are we taking the money that's not ours that we're spending? Is one. So the discipline of the CEO, the demeanor, how he treats his people. There's a rule in life and business I have always followed, which is anything you do with someone, you will do to them. So if the CEO is treating C levels, other C levels or staff badly, they're going to treat me badly. So I'm not, at the point in my career where I'm going to want to put up with that. But, it's also symptomatic of, are we making decisions based on this person's ego? Is this an organization open to learning? Is the product well received? Is their product market fit? Good marketing can definitely help solve some of the business's problems, but it cannot solve all of them. And so I've started to learn over the years. Definitely, I have a very good feel when I walk into an organization if this is the right flavor of crazy for me.
Yeah, and especially going through the process yourself of seeing what everyone else goes through, and if you're having a harder time, I'm sure everyone else is having a harder time too. There's always something there.
I've found many bugs. I've found many glitches. I have found many anomalies in this, in the fulfillment process that no one actually thought to try. And it's funny how just by being a customer, you have empathy for those people. You grow empathy, especially in Web3, because the usability is like, oh, okay, here I am in MetaMask. Okay, you have to have that empathy. And I'm also I carry Android and iPhone, but I am primary Android. So it's also very telling to me if we don't think we need an Android app. It's like, well, you're obviously then a US company because Android is larger globally. So there's all these like little tells you start to learn over time.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. When you do your work, you're working primarily as a technical SEO specialist, which is interesting because that's something that I don't hear a lot from people that I know in the industry as an SEO specialist or just being an SEO. I'm curious, what does technical mean in the context of SEO, and what information or even crucial information does it even surface for the companies when you're looking at it through that lens?
Well, there are multiple types of SEOs. There's your, beginner Swiss Army knife SEOs where they do a little bit of everything. And, maybe we throw some keywords in there and we use a plugin in WordPress. There's your PR type SEOs who, are dealing with content distribution. There's your social types. I am technical because I look at your code. And I am gauging some of what we do by our technical, a lot of what we do by our technical performance of our properties. So our apps, our websites, are they compliant? Are we ADA compliant? Are we Core Web Vitals compliant? Like we're actually looking at code and trying to make sure that we guarantee things like we have, the best LCP score, largest contentful paint, which is a score from Google as to how fast the full blush of a page loads before it fully loads. How much of an impression do you give the user? So this is a different level because I started my career as a developer for the first decade of my career as a developer. I approach it from that lens. And, my love of data and analytics, I started using Google Analytics when it was still urchin. I was a beta tester. That's what gave me the confidence to switch into marketing. So technical comes first because that is who I am and what I do. I'm looking at code. I come to the party with 2 full stack developers. Because if you cannot enact the changes you recommend in a startup, you're wasting our time.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's definitely unique. I haven't heard that before. You're making me curious too around, all the analytics that are out there. And you said magic words, Google Analytics, which seems to be the majority, or at least in what I've seen. I'm curious to know what's going to happen or what you think will happen in the analytics world. They brought out the brand new, whatever it is, Google Analytics 4. And it's just turned the whole world upside down. It feels like I'm myself confused. I'm not as matured in that area as you are. So I'm now wondering what is, have they just like like sawed off their own arm, or do they know what they're doing, or is there other companies that are going to pop up? Like, what's going to happen to the whole landscape of analytics, because you can't function?
Yeah, everything's going to go kaboom. No, so great question. Most SEOs I know, and I know a bunch, we all talk, hate GA4, Universal Analytics. Like, a lot of us don't like it, and it's because they bury things, and it's meant to increase lead attribution. So I believe the last statistic I heard is that Google Analytics runs on, I think, 80% of websites in the world, or in the US. I don't quote me on that. I don't remember exactly, but because it's free and it's powerful, it's a very commonly used tool, and we use it all the time. And GA4 is hard because the tools that SEOs use and marketers use don't yet work with it. So adoption may lag. I mean, look at, what Google tried to do, eliminating the cookie with the flock protocol, FLOC. They quickly had to backtrack on that. So I think we may see the community backlash on this again, because it is so extremely difficult to use. And, I'm starting to get the hang of it because I know this thing in and out. But for a layperson, it is much harder. And so they are actually going to need these tools to ensure adoption, because without the tools, you can't interpret what this big, powerful tool is doing.
You're looking at a lot of information for a lot of different companies, and I'm sure there's now a length of time that that there's going to be certain kinds of results, and then other times you're probably looking at it going, why didn't we see a result here? This should have happened already. Or maybe it did happen, but the analytics didn't show it, or I don't know if there's idiosyncrasies around certain things. But what do you look for, or what do you even tell your clients in terms of expectations around what they should expect in SEO, and how all of it is changing, and what's going to happen even over the next 6 months to even, I mean, you can't predict the future, but where it's heading.
Right. So any legitimate SEO cannot promise results. They cannot promise any kind of influence directly over the search results, because no one can promise that. But we can, however, say, look, we're going to increase your search performance. We are going to increase the search efficacy here, in that we're going to be doing performance tuning. We're going to give you better user experience. We're going to help people stay longer on the site. Those are things you can control. You can give people better copy. You can give them better graphics. You can give them more relevant experiences that are not me. I love it when you go to a website and they pound over your head 50 times that you're looking at their site. It's like, less is more. Focus on the value. We can help them figure that out and measure, do heat maps, understand where we're losing people and keep people there. That we can control. We can control, we can massage how we appear in search by having, good descriptions, so that they're relevant to the page and our click-through rates improve. We can focus on these things on our overall performance. But, I'm very clear from the start, I don't control Google. I will say I have a good knack, because of how much data I look at in different industries. I do have a good knack for when an algorithm update is coming. And I did correctly predict this last one, which was the MUM update, MUM. And the reason was that I saw how garbagey certain results were getting. And I knew, and it was like mainly a natural language update. I knew something was coming because of how much garbage has risen to the top in search. Like, think about it. When you've looked for a recipe or how to do something at home, or you've done your own research, think about how that first article always appears. It repeats the question a bunch of times. And then it's like, we're going to tell you what it is. And then you're going to go through a paragraph of garbage. And then, and so it's gotten gamed. And whenever you start to see that for like really big queries, like how to fix a flat, or things, a lot of people are searching, then you know, okay, something's going to happen because they're onto that. They also have human reviewers that do spot checks. They still use humans to check quality, which I'm thankful for.
Yeah.
I love bots, but I like the combination of, because there are just certain idiosyncrasies that a bot isn't going to catch that a human will, like, oh, this is really spammy. Let's discount this.
Oh my gosh. Thank God. I didn't know that. I was thinking that the AI machine learning has taken over the world on that side of things. So it's really good to know. And I'm curious on the AI and machine learning side. It feels like there's lots of tools and everyone's selling an SEO tool, and you're looking at everybody selling this widget, that widget. Like I can't. I mean, I'm sure there's an ad for every SEO tool on the planet. How do you even discern what is out there, what to use? Or do you just go, you know what, this is not even worth the time? And because using it, you really have to know what you're looking for. And I guess this is part of the second question, which I'll ask you after we work through this.
Well, there are tons of tools that claim to be, like an Anne in a can. And yeah, and some of them are good, some of them are not. I use at any given time probably 5 to 7 different tools. And that's because I'm looking at different perspectives, different types of performance. Some I've used for years, and some I am just testing because someone sent it to me or I saw it mentioned in a trade publication, the search pubs, which I love reading because I'm a search nerd. But you start to get a feel for which ones are the Swiss Army knives that are like the, HubSpots of the world, which I'm not singling them out. There are many like them, or Marketos, where they want to take over all of your marketing activity, and yet they come with a consultant. So who in a long-term contract. So I'm always leery of the ones that don't give a free trial, even if it's for 48 hours. Like, give me 7 days to evaluate this, and I'll stick with you for years if I like you. But so there's some that are just for monitoring. There's some that are for competitors. I have a lot of different, some are social listening, and those change all the time. Social tools are up and down. You have ones that are for monitoring, some that are for posting, analytics. But I always like to use at least 2 sources of data when I'm trying to really figure out an effectiveness of a campaign, because you generally want to correlate your data when it comes to your money.
What are a few things that marketers that aren't going to look at this every day? They're just going to look at the high level, or they're just going to look at the, like, what matters stuff. What would they look for? What are they looking? What's the increase or decrease, or the momentum, or the stuff that matters? You know what I'm saying? Like the executive that's in the room that says, yeah.
I do. And I actually will, in the beginning of a project, generally build out an executive dashboard, because they need to understand what's going on, because it doesn't matter how great you're doing if you cannot explain to the client and the stakeholders what you're doing and why it's working. So I learned that very early on in my career as an SEO, that you have to pick, 4 or 5 things, measure them consistently. Because if you cherry pick your data, oh, you know what matters this month matters about bounce rate because it was good. And then next month it comes back to that discipline. You have to pick 3 or 4 things. Okay, is it time on site, amount of people who hit the contact form, how many people followed us on social, pick 3 or 4 things, up to 5, look at them every month, look at them, have automated reports. You can build dashboards in most tools, have that emailed to you every week or emailed to that executive every week. And then, give people a way that they can find the information they want, and they'll feel, involved in the project, and they'll trust you. Because, my ethos, I should get it tattooed because I say it so much, which is Pearson's law, that which you measure improves. So have discipline in those 3 or 4 things, stick to them. You can always change, but don't do it every month.
If you were to say like a favorite like KPI that usually is the one surrounding like we got to stick to this one, do you have one of those, or is that just so totally different every time?
I mean, there's search performance metrics and there's on-page metrics, right? So there's the party outside of the website, and then there's the party on the website. So I like to look at, measuring the amount of impressions versus clicks, because if my impressions go up and my clicks don't go with them, why? Why am I getting all this additional eyeballs and why am I not converting them? That means that maybe I'm not appearing in the right searches. Maybe I haven't optimized my descriptions, and so people don't want to click because they don't think it's relevant. Maybe I haven't written any descriptions at all and Google's just pulling them for me, which in one of the recent updates, they basically said, if we don't like your description, we're going to just pull anyway from the page. So they'll decide for you if they don't think you know what you're doing. But on the page, I think a good general metric for site health is to monitor your bounce rate, so that you can see if it's going up or down over time. You'll know if your content's resonating, and how many pages are people looking at is kind of also built into that metric, as well as time on site. If you're getting less than 30 seconds, if you're getting less than 10 seconds, you have to question, is that human? Especially if you're running ads. If it's a human being, even if they hate something, cannot click off in 0 seconds. So if your ad spend's going and your clicks are also going, but your time on site is abysmal, sorry, you caught some bots. So that information becomes very powerful, especially if you're running ads, which as an SEO, we do. Not all SEOs will touch ads, but I mean, it's all search. How could you know?
Interesting. I'm always interested in that. And that's obviously it's a different, that's a whole nother interview, but it feels like that should sit together because they are all search. It feels like that. Yeah. Okay. So this is, I could sit here and talk to you all day. This is fascinating. But this is going to be your hardest question yet. You have a secret identity. Would you be able to reveal that here?
Yes, I think I feel safe enough. It's a safe place.
It is a safe place.
Yes. So I grew up in Texas. People think of me as Texan. I never changed my 512 phone number from all the time that I spent out of Texas and New York and California, but I am actually Canadian. And was born there, and all my family lives there. So I'm like low-key Canadian. Like people don't realize it. People who know me don't always know, because I will tell you, if you meet me, I'm Texan because I am. I grew up here from age 7. I own so many pairs of cowboy boots. Yeah, I hated it as a kid, but now I'm into it as an adult. I've gotten into it. But, I didn't like it when I had to listen to like Brooks and Dunn and Garth. But now I'm like, okay, you grow up and you have different feelings, right? But I was born in Toronto, which is where majority of my family lives. And then I've also got family in Vancouver and Calgary. I also lived in Calgary as a girl because my dad worked in audited oil companies. So of course we went to Calgary and Houston, where I grew up. Those are big oil towns. Also home of the world's largest indoor and outdoor rodeos. So
you see that? Yeah, that would be really cool, actually. I would love to see. Really? Oh man. Yeah. Someday I would love to see that. So we'll have to make that happen. And this has been so awesome. Thank you so much for being on Leadtail TV and for sharing so many ideas and tips and thoughts and everything around all you've done and all you're doing. I know you've written and you're an author and CEO, and family person and just an amazing human being. My wife and I just love you to death, and I'm just so proud and excited for you. And so just thank you so much.
Thank you. The feels are mutual. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers.